Hi, and welcome everyone to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. Today we are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in beautiful New Orleans. Hello, everyone. Sorry for the little slow start. Little bit of a technical problem, but what would life be without them, right? But everything's resolved. Hello, everyone in the chat. It's always such a pleasure to see you. So again, welcome to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled, and it bears repeating. Thank you so much for joining us today on United Public Radio and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. So we're going to have a conversation today that I am enamored with. I absolutely love, and I think a lot of you will join me in that. And it's about a creature that has stalked our nightmares and seduced our imaginations for centuries. Tonight, we're sinking our teeth into the profound question: why does the vampire trope never die? And it really never dies for centuries, right? So we're exploring this psychological thrill that we get from the ultimate predator, the immortal, captivating monster who lives outside of every human rule. Our guest today is Wayne Mallows, and I'm so excited to have him on my show today. He has taken his fans on a deep, dark journey back into the creature's diabolical roots with his Vampyre Tales series, challenging us to look past the romance and face the true horror of the eternal hunger. But I'm a romantic, and I absolutely love the whole theme behind Dracula and romance. I mean, it's in so many movies and books, but that's a whole nother story. So get ready for a thrilling look at what the vampire reveals about our deepest fears and desires. Wayne, thank you so much. Where are you? There you are.
I'm here. I made it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
What a crazy world we live in.
Oh, I'm trying to move something out of the way here. I can't even see this thing here. 1 second. I can't. Okay.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I'll say hello to the folks.
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, good. Well, hello. Yes. Hello. Of course, Michelle is with us. And Heidi, my dear star sister. Hello. Patsy. So always good to see you, and others will pop in as well. So Wayne, you're so well known for your book series, and I haven't read one yet, but I intend on doing that very soon. I'm talking to Michelle about it. I really want to get started on reading them, but let us know how you got started into writing about vampires. Like, what was the lore for you?
Oh, it's a deep story. How long we got?
2 hours. 2 hours.
It started off as a kid, really. I was not the popular person as I am today. No. And I think it was more all the kids that I went to school with, they all had their superheroes. They had the Spider-Man. Everyone wants to be a fireman, be an astronaut, all that kind of stuff. And I didn't like anybody there. They all picked on me. So it's like I didn't want to have their superheroes and so forth and so on. So I kind of found the vampire quite by accident. Just watching a show one time, and it really grabbed me, because like beyond the horror of the vampire and everything else, this individual was alone, had no friends, had no family, lived outside. He was almost a pariah from society. And I'm like, hey, that's me. I can identify to this guy. So that's kind of where I went with it. And it wasn't intentional. It wasn't kind of like, I'm going to be this guy, I'm going to be a vampire. I kind of just felt a kinship to that more than, I think I'm going to go out and reinvent myself. That's where it began from, and then I got involved, watching the series that I always did, like the Hilarious House of Frightenstein and the Munsters and the Addams Family and all that stuff. And those shows became my family. Right. Yeah. So that was just like, I identify with that. They live in creepy houses, they have cool cars, and I was like, that's me. I want to be that guy, you know. So that's where the sort of interest came from. Always had an interest in them. Always, always, always. I wasn't a big, I'm going to research this till the cows come home, not as a young person.
Mm,
But where it all started with the tales was I used to build haunted houses, like theatrical haunted houses, and I would go in and do lectures and shows and stuff, how to be scary, right? And
mm,
I did that for years, years and years. And one of the big shows up here, one of the big theme parks, approached me to come and look at their stuff over. They actually wanted me to be an actor, and honestly, at the time, I didn't have time. There was just no way I could fit, like a 3-day a week schedule into my already packed schedule in October. This not going to happen, right?
yeah.
So I ended up going to talk with them, and I sat with the head of the entertainment department for a little while, and I was intrigued with what they had to sort of offer up, and they were going about it the right way at the time. I thought, okay, these people are actually on the right track. And they wanted to create a character, and I said, well, I can help you do that. I can help you create this character. And because they had an area of the park called Atmosphere, and
Mm,
these characters would actually interact, they'd mingle with you. And I said, well, if you have that, you're going to have to be pretty quick on the draw, because people are smart. You
yeah.
can't come up with a character and then, some 14-year-old kid goes, oh yeah, when were you born? And you can't answer that question, right? So
Right. Right.
I created this vampire story, this character. And as I was creating it, I was just like, actually, it's pretty cool. I actually like this guy. This is really neat. And so when I got it all done, they asked me, would I be that guy? And I said, well, I'm not cool enough to be that guy, but I can fill the shoes for a little while.
Yeah.
So I did. And when I was finished the show, I thought, I'm actually gonna jot this all down, right? And maybe make a little short story out of it or something, just for fun. Like, it was just
Yeah.
not really like, I'm going to go out and publish this. I was never thinking that in once. And as I started to write, and I wrote technical manuals, I taught motorcycle maintenance and things like that for eons. So I'm used to writing a very technical thing. I never really wrote something like that, not using proper grammar. So there was a bit of a challenge, right? So as I started to write it, it was really interesting, because I wrote the first chapter, and it went really smoothly, and I had to introduce this secondary character, and I couldn't get it to go. It
Oh,
wouldn't go. I wrote it, I erased it, I wrote it, I erased it. I had notes all over my desk, and I was like, is this what they talk about, writer's block? Is this what I'm having right now? Because
yeah.
I've never experienced this. This is craziness. And I remember leaning back in my chair, and I'm just like, why won't you gel? Why won't you go? Why don't you feel comfortable with me? And that was the first time I heard in my head, in another voice that wasn't mine, this woman basically say, because I'm not like that, stop making me so simple. And
Oh,
I was just like, wow, okay. I'm either losing it, or that was a really damn good idea. So I just erased her entire character, and I opened the second page up, and I wrote, her hair color, eye color, her height, her stature, her demeanor, everything. And I'm like, is that better? Is that more you? And no, I didn't hear anything. It was nothing. I'm like, okay, let's see if this jams. And it jammed. It
wow.
went like boom, 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 boom. And it gives me shivers when I talk about it. It's crazy. And and Whitechapel Road was the first book. It was only supposed to be a standalone book. It wasn't supposed to be a series. But as it rolled along, and I tell people this in other interviews, it was like I was just the fingers. Like, it really
Mm,
felt like, when I read some of this stuff over, I was looking at, excuse me, something the other night, and I'm just like, this is way above my pay grade. Like, it's just like, this is way higher than my knowledge and education would allow me to create from. I mean, there's still
yeah.
some hiccups with commas and stuff, but overall, I mean, it's like I was blown away. I'm
Did
blown
it
away.
feel like a download?
It was
Like,
not
did
a,
it?
it wasn't a
No.
download. It literally felt like you standing beside me going, well, she would say this. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that's a good idea. And
Wow.
then why make it rain? Well, that's a good idea. Make it rain. Yeah, raining's better.
Who is this character?
the character is the second character in the story. The first character is Aramis. That's the vampire guy.
Right,
And
I read about him.
the second character goes by Mary. That's the second character. And she's my sort of, villain in disguise kind of thing. So that was who she was. And she goes right through the whole series, except for a couple of places she's not there. But she's my antagonist, right? She antagonizes the guy, and she's always harassing him. She's trying to get him to think outside the box without giving it all away, right? So that's what she does, right? So I had made her a certain way, but now the way I'd created her was I had created her in such a way that she could be very childlike, like almost innocent, and as soon as you let your guard down, you realize, holy mackerel, this is a really well thought out, very methodical killer. Like, it's just, that's who
Was
she
she a
becomes.
vamp too?
Yes. Yeah, she
Oh.
is. She's the one that turns Aramis.
Oh, I
Right.
thought it was the other way around, but
No, he's just a country bumpkin out in the woods, and going to a fall festival with his family, and runs into this being. Essentially, back in the day, it was marriages were arranged. It wasn't whether you loved the person or not. It was more just like, like, this is good for us. Like the neighboring farm has a daughter, and they've got 65 acres. And if we marry you to her, then between the two of us, we'll have a controlling, crop every year, because we'll be huge in the area. That's the way marriages were done back in those days.
yeah.
So that's he'd never met her for like years. Like, he knew her when she was 8 years old, and then she went away to her aunt's because her aunt was sick. And so Aramis hadn't seen her in years. So when this other woman shows up at the get together, she said, "Oh, I guess you're going to be my husband. I'm a little nervous." And he's like, "Oh my God, I haven't seen you in years. Like, you look so different, but really not." And that's how they sort of get together, and it just turns ugly fast for him. And that's where the story starts, right? And he's got to recover. I think for me, it was I when I set out on this journey, even when I created the character, I wanted a believable character.
Yeah.
I didn't want the typical, oh, I got lots of money and I got lots of women and I live in a castle and I have a great manor house. And I didn't want any of that. I wanted the reader to feel what it was like, to feel what this character was going through, like completely lost, no idea. I think I used the word vampire once in the whole first book, because he doesn't know. He doesn't know. And he doesn't know what's wrong with him. His sister doesn't know. His sister's got a gift. She calls it her other sight, is what she calls it. And she doesn't talk about it, because she says, yeah, you start talking about stuff like that, they take you away, so she just keeps it to herself in this little farmhouse. But she says, I knew something was wrong with my brother. The day after, when he survived that animal attack in the woods, she says, I knew there was something wrong. He came back, but he left part of him somewhere else. So it's not all him anymore. So she's well aware that there's something wrong with her brother. And she challenges him one night on the front porch at the end of a rifle, and basically gives him a couple of choices, and she'd worked it all out. So that's sort of the premise of that character, where it comes from. But I really needed the reader to feel that despair, that loneliness, that emptiness, that being shunned by your family, and having your family, only one part of your family really know what's going on, but not to the full extent of what's going on, and then shipped off to London kind of thing. And there, you're going to start your life over there and don't come home.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a forced upon him type of thing.
It's so interesting because I think we're so used to the male character being the head vamp turning all the women,
Right.
not so much the other way around. So that's very creative that you kind of flip the script a little bit there.
Yeah.
And like I said, I can't wait to read the book. But why do you think that the vampire trope is so popular still? Like, I can remember being as young as 8, 9 years old, and the lore of Dracula and the story was just always my dog. Sorry about that.
It could be our dog.
He's got a big mouth. It was just always there, especially for women, because they made Dracula so
Mhm.
romanticized in the movies, in
Yeah.
books, things like that.
Yeah.
So that was the appeal, really, I think, for women my age. So, where do you think the lore and the attraction is still as strong today as it was, back then?
Well, I think it's twofold. I think first of all, death is the unknown door, right? Whether
Yeah.
many people fear it. A good friend of mine years ago when I ran the bike shop, he said, and he was atheist. He's like, I don't fear death, but the matter of my departure is a bit of a concern.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much where we all are. There's a
Absolutely.
million ways to die. We hope it's in our bed quietly. But
Yeah.
I think with the vampire, the allure of like the living forever, being immortal, and things like that is definitely attractive to people who fear what's on the other side, kind of thing, what might be coming. The other side of it is Hollywood's had a big say in it. It's like they've romanticized it
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
a little bit too much. I think. I went away from that. I went
Yeah.
away from I want to be a vampire to I hate being this thing. I don't know what this thing is, but I hate it. And it, even the two little pinholes in the neck. When I was researching way back when, I was discovered that the reason they made the two little pinholes was to make
Yeah.
it to make it pretty. They figured
Oh,
that women in the theaters would swoon if it was too
if it was
gory.
too gory. Yeah.
Correct. So they made it pretty. They made it attractive.
Yeah.
And that's part of the
Oh, I
where it
didn't know
went,
that.
part of the problem and part of where it went. Whereas my vampires, when they bite you, they
Yeah.
literally the fangs are just to hold you still. Then the
Oh,
lower jaw comes around and pulls that whole section right out. Everything
what?
goes. Yeah, it's gross. And I got
So
I got I
when
got
they
that. Go
that's
ahead.
crazy. I never heard that like before. When they recover, does that, when they die and have a rebirth, that heals then, I would imagine,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, yeah, with Aramis, like he's found in the woods, on the road, and it's like I want to say it's like mid 1800s when all this goes
Yeah.
down, right? And he's found and he's damaged. Like I mean, he's they figure it's a wolf attack. That's what it
Yeah,
looks like.
sure.
And but his sister's just like they don't know hospitals, right? They take him to the local doctor in the little
Yeah.
hamlet that they have, and he's just like, oh, you're not going to make it. This guy's not going to make it. Like he's
No.
lost a lot of blood. He's bleeding out as we still. And his sister, who is there as it's not a nurse, but she's a helper. Like she just helps out. So she goes over and dresses his wounds, and she's just like, it's healing so fast. And the
Wow.
doctor's like, her doctor is just like, well, your brother's young, he's strong, he comes from good stock, God is with him, kind of thing. This whole idea, right? And but she's just like, I'm really happy, but I'm not. What's wrong with this guy, right? So thanks, Heidi. Appreciate you. But yeah, that's what happens. So I mean, if you look at any predator around the world, any meat eating predator, right?
Mhm.
They're there to take you down fast and not make it
Oh,
pretty.
yeah.
But and so my vampires don't make it pretty. You can't get enough blood out of two little holes if you're in a rush,
Yeah.
right?
Makes sense.
you know and like all that lore about coming out at night and stuff like that. I looked into all of that stuff and like went right back into the European lore and stuff. It's really interesting, and it just comes down to, you know if you're going to take somebody out, you're going to do it in the middle of the market square in front of everybody. No, you got to do it at night, right? That's where it comes from. I mean, the whole idea of whistling at night, and like I remember talking to old folks saying, oh, don't whistle at night, it'll bring the devil. Well, no, it doesn't, but okay. And they're like, well, oh, my friend, he was whistling at night and he got mugged. I'm like, well,
Oh,
that's because when you whistle at night, you're usually alone.
right,
If you and
right.
I were walking together through the park at night, we would be
Well, you
having a
would be whistling.
conversation. I wouldn't be walking along you in silence and me whistling a tune, right?
Exactly, right.
That's a dead giveaway. That's a giveaway to a highwayman at the time that, hey, this guy or this woman was by herself. That's an easy mark. So that'd be that.
That's that's crazy. So,
Yeah.
it's when you look back historically at the roots of Count Dracula, like in a lot of the Drac movies, they show you, how, he was in love, madly in love with the queen or his princess, whatever she was.
Yeah.
And she thought he was dead, kind of like Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
And then she jumps out of a balcony and dies, and he flips out and
Yeah.
makes a pact with the devil. And it's like this whole convoluted thing. So, and it's always based in this premise of love.
Hmm.
Like this is what drove him. But the original historical account, wasn't he like a brutal bastard and chopped people's heads off and put them on stakes and
Hmm.
stuff? The
Yeah.
real
Yeah. He was.
Dracula?
He was. He impaled people like the real
Yeah.
Vlad Dracul. Yeah,
Yeah,
he did do
Vlad.
that. But I
Yeah.
mean, you got to remember the time period we are dealing with. Like
Right.
everybody was impaling people. That was
Right.
the execution of choice, and then
Yeah.
later came the guillotine, and after that came hanging. It just moved with the times. Like he wasn't exclusive to impaling, but he had a way of sending a message. You got an army coming to your castle, and let's say you only have 3,000 troops, and you got an army of 50,000 coming to your castle. If they come up the pathway and see 1,500 people impaled on sticks, it sends a message.
It sure
Do
does.
you want to keep going? That puts fear into people, and
Oh,
fear is a
yeah.
powerful thing. If you're afraid, you're not going to function.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there we
So
are.
historically, where did all this lore come from? Like, when did it start transitioning over into this paranormal creature who sucks blood, and stalks you at night? And like, at what point did that happen in history?
It depends where you are. I mean, if there's vampirism around the world. I mean, in every country, there is a story of a night stalker who creeps through the woods or creeps into your bedroom at night and takes your blood. And it depends on what country you're in and what time period that takes place. The common, I mean, the most popular, rather not common, is the European theater, right? That's where most of our stuff sort of originates from. Now, if you're Aboriginal and you're native to the North Americas, they would tell you a completely different idea of the one that takes your blood. I think many times I found that it's sort of a misinterpretation, I would say. And what I mean by that is, if I go and in the primitive times, if I stab somebody or I cut their wrist bad enough, they bleed out and they die,
Right.
right? Okay, so it's the blood. People identify the blood as the life source.
Yeah.
The blood is your soul. The blood keeps you alive. If I take your blood, you're dead. So if I drink your essence, right, then therefore I will pull your knowledge and your spirit into my own self. And there's countless stories and records of leaders around the world, getting a hold of their adversary after they've had a battle and draining their blood and drinking it, so they could then empower themselves with the knowledge
Yeah.
of their enemy, right? So that's kind of where historically that comes
That
from.
it came from. Yeah. That
Where the night walkers, I mean, there was, there's stuff in Romania and Yugoslavia and places like that now that's still, if they have a problem, like if somebody dies and they bury them, and then sheep are dropping by the tens, and the daughter down the street, all of a sudden's got boils on her skin and things like that, they'll go dig that person up, chop their head off, and put their head between their knees and
Oh,
put a stake
yeah.
through their chest, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that happens today, like in modern day.
Yeah, I
So
believe it. Yeah.
it's a long reaching tale of horror with that thing. It's real for them.
It's so interesting because I kind of made a connection. I don't want to say the word because of censorship issues,
Hmm.
but there is a, a lore, I guess, or stories all over the internet of this particular type of blood that's taken from the youth. I'm trying to be very careful
Yeah, I
with
know
my
what you're
wording.
saying.
You know what I'm
I
talking about.
I absolutely know what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Okay, good. So I hope folks know and who's listening. If not, they can kind of look it up. But so it's interesting to me because it's almost like we made modern day vamps doing it in a very nefarious way to children.
Mhm.
So it's almost like they're vamps too. I mean, essentially,
Yeah.
but they're not doing the actual slaying themselves. They're purchasing this blood,
Some are.
right?
Some are doing
Yeah.
the slaying themselves, and you have to remember too, like, this is coming to light now, but I can promise you this has been going on for hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years. There have been baby sacrifices, right through
Absolutely. Yeah.
biblical, records, right? So it's nothing new.
Yeah.
It's just now it's people are starting to go, well, why is it a thing? Well, this is the reason it's a thing, and that's what they're doing. So,
Do
you
you
know,
think that that word that we can't say is a thing?
absolutely it's a thing.
Yeah, it is. I believe it's a thing too.
Yeah, it's absolutely a thing.
I feel bad for folks listening that, but they need to understand that we have to be, walk on ice here because I don't want to create any issues for us. But
Negative.
I'm afraid to even say the word. But it's just amazing to me because I believe that to be true as well, and it's so connected to vampirism.
Mhm.
Like, don't you think? Or
It's a little off. I mean, I'm talking about, a being that, has, for lack of a better word, like, it didn't really die, came back to life, had an NDE, you know, and he came back to life with something else, you know what I mean? Like, in
yeah.
his sister's name is Temperance, and she has a diary, and the way I write in Whitechapel Road is pretty much every chapter starts off with one of her diary entries.
Mm,
And it's like the late Victorian era. But I mean, these people are out in the bush. They're in the country of England, right? I mean, there's hardly anything out there. They raise cattle, they raise horses, they raise sheep. That's what they do. But she writes very flowery. And at one point she says, I'm pretty sure my brother passed on that road that night. And even though we brought him back, the dark angel kept part of my brother back there and gave him in return part of himself. Right. So that's a little different than what we're talking about in modern day, you know. So
yeah, true. When did the transition happen between, like, I remember seeing the black and white version of like Nosferatu,
mhm,
and that thing was
terrifying.
nasty.
Back in the day, that was scary stuff, man.
It really
Yep.
was. It was awful.
Yeah.
And it kind of blew away my whole preconceived notions of like what Dracula looked like. I was like so confused by that. What was going on there, Wayne? Why did they
Well,
do that with Nosferatu and then transition him into, handsome movie stars, money?
money.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, the little pretty pinholes in the neck to keep the women happy, right? Keep the romance.
Yeah.
Like, everything runs on the dollar value. I mean, when I was seeking out a publisher, and man, I worked hard at seeking out a publisher, and it is not an easy game. I feel for anyone who's
Yeah.
trying to write something that's worth reading. I've spent 10 years creating the first book and pushing it, and probably 3 of those years we're trying to market it, and they have what do they call that thing? It's oh, it's gonna right out of my head. It's a pattern, right? It's not what I'm looking for. The word will come to me, but I sat down with this one publisher. I was basically speed dating for authors, right? Is what I went to New York for. And
Jeez.
I researched all the people I wanted to talk to. There was an agent, and there was a publisher, and there was another publisher out of Boston that I wanted to talk to. And there was like probably 200 people there, but I knew who I wanted to talk to. And there is a pattern that they want for every book. Everything you want to write about Frankenstein, great. There's got to be a pattern, right? And if you want to write about vampires, there's got to be a pattern. Has to be. If it's not there, sorry, man. And the reason it's sorry, man, is because they know what sells, right? Example would be like, I have a good series. I mean, I've got a 5-star rating with all my books, and I can't understand why nobody will pick it up, right? Because it's so departed
Yeah.
from what they want, right? I mean, when I
Are
sat
you
down with this
talking
guy,
about pick it up for a movie
yeah,
or
pick it
when
up
you
for a
were
book. I tried to get Penguin Publishing to publish the book.
right, right, right.
And I sat with this guy and I showed him the copy, and he looked at me. He's like, "That cost you a pretty penny." I said, "Oh, it sure did." And then we jammed for a bit, and he really liked the whole concept. He loved the concept. He's, "I never would have seen this coming. It's great." Second thing out of his mouth, he goes, "Is there a romance?" And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
not yet. That doesn't happen until book 3. And he's like,
Yeah, Patsy's saying a formula. I guess it's kind of like
yeah,
a
the
formula,
formula.
right?
Yeah, that's right,
Yeah.
Patsy. I couldn't think of the word. I just drawn a blank. But yeah, he's like, is there a romance? I said, not till book 3. And he just kind of went, pull
Oh,
back like that, right? And
yeah.
then just like, no, it's like it there you want a formula. Well, it this is better. This will be the new formula, I promise you. Like, but he's probably heard that from 1,000 guys that have tanked, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if
Yeah.
you like, why do we have Spider-Man 18? Because they know it works. All we have to do is pay one
Yeah.
actor and a bunch of CGI, and we've got a multi-million-dollar win.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whereas if we take this Wayne Mallows guy, yeah, he's got a good book, but if we go and invest, let's, for argument's sake, let's say like $25 million. We go and invest $25 million on this new guy, and it tanks. Our production company, our directors, our sound guys, our lighting guys, nobody
Yeah.
works ever
Yeah.
again. So they don't do it. They don't do.
Yeah.
If
Makes sense.
they could sell a movie on watching a potato grow in the ground, and it cost them $25 to do it, and they were guaranteed $47 million, I promise you we'd all be watching potatoes grow in the ground, because it's
Yeah.
this,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
always. It's always
Always.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's why.
Yeah, because I remember that movie kinda just, like, disappeared, that really scary Nosferatu guy kinda just and then that's, like, really what Dracula,
But
I always felt looked like.
well, it is, but it's interesting that you talk about this. I'm gonna jump around a bit here.
Yeah, go ahead.
In I think for a second. In book 3, which is called Unnatural Selection, right? When I write, when I do my research and I write my books, like, I don't meditate, but I spend a great deal of time in the character's shoes, and I look around. What am I going to see? How am I going to feel? Is it hot?
Yeah.
Is it cold? Am I hungry? Am I not? Before I even start writing, and the dialogue, I actually verbalize the dialogue. People think I'm crazy. I sit there and I talk to myself, and I'm like, no, I wouldn't talk like that. No, I wouldn't hear like that. No, I would be like this. There would be this. There would be that. I work it all out. So I always try to tie it in. It's historical fiction. So in the first book,
Mm.
it unfolds over top of or behind the scene of Jack the Ripper. That's the
Oh,
part
right.
that's the real part, right? So I research the Ripper to nauseam to make sure that I have the streets right, how long it would take to walk that street. I looked at all the weather forecasts of the days I'm writing on, whether it was a
Wow.
full moon, whether it wasn't, whether it was raining. There was a dock fire happening on the Thames. I include that on that date. So when you're reading it, it sounds so real that you go and research it and you go, holy crap, this really was happening. What the hell? I've had people write me and go, I'm standing outside this pub. It's still here. It's creepy. I'm standing right in the space where Aramis was looking for his nemesis. It's freaky. It's exactly as you said. But I'm going to jump back to book 3 on Unnatural Selection.
But I wanna just interject it. It
Yeah.
almost sounds like you remote viewed into the time period or something paranormal.
No, I mean,
No?
I I'm about, as Michelle will laugh, but I'm as about as gifted as a tree stump. You know, it doesn't happen. I mean, if it does, I'm completely unaware of it. What I
Yeah.
did was I took maps from 1888, and then I took modern day maps, and I laid them over each other so I could see what it looked like. I walked the streets through Google Maps, Google Earth. I could turn left, I could turn right, I could see what's there now and what's not there now, and I get a sense of it. One of the interviews they did with the constable during Jack the Ripper times, he had a beat to walk, and it says it took me 17 minutes to walk this figure 8 beat. And I have
Oh,
a 2.5 foot stride. Well, I did the math. I could work out how long it would take you to actually walk this figure 8 path through Mitre Square and all the way around. So then I calculate the height of my guy based on
yeah.
my height and what my stride is. I have a 3 foot stride at relaxed. So I could work out how long, once he heard that scream, how long will it take my guy to get from where he is to where I need him to be to make it believable? Because he's a killer. He's not supernatural. He doesn't turn into a fog or a bat. He's got to walk or take a cab, right? This is the name of the game here, is keeping it extremely real. Make sense?
It does. I'm trying to, like, figure out in my head, if you were working, during the day with your business and stuff, what were you up to, like, 2, 3 in the morning doing all this writing and
Yeah,
research?
Yeah, a lot of it. I did a lot of the note work on pen
Yeah.
and paper. I just wrote it on pads of paper. I had paper everywhere. I did a lot of driving for my job. I drove at night. I drove a long distance to get home. I had maybe an hour and 20-minute drive some nights. And I would just run the dialogue through my head over and over and over. So when I finally sat down to write it, I was actually writing it from a memory as if I'd been there, because I'd been there 1,000 times in my head
Yeah.
and on the maps and on the computers. I'd seen everything. I've done everything. I mean, it got so convoluted at one point that I reached out to and people go, "Oh, you're a ripperologist." I'm not a ripperologist. I'm trying to write a book, right? That's what I was trying to do. And so I reached out to this forum on Jack the Ripper, and I got a lot of little snippy quips back. "Well, you're not much of a sleuth. Figure it out, you know." And I was like, "Dude, I don't have time to figure it out. I'm just asking a simple question.
Yeah.
I've got contradictions between the head coroner in the first murder and the same man in the second murder, misquoting his first quote. So which one's right? That's all I want to know. Which one, which one's correct? I'm trying to make it exact as possible, right?" And this gentleman just basically said, "Here's my email. Write me." Okay. So I wrote him an email. I said, "Hey, this is what I'm doing, blah, 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 blah." And he's like, "Okay, real cool." He said, "I used to work for the Metro Police Department, and I'm a fan of Jack the Ripper. The guy you're looking for is this. This is the guy. This is the neighbor to the neighbor who came out in the middle of the night, right? And that's why he was there. This other guy, they misquoted him, right? And that's why the coroner's quote is different from first murder to second murder." I'm like, "Oh, thank you. It's all I wanted to know. That's
Yeah.
all."
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm a little confused though. Why did you include that in your book series? The whole Ripper thing? So what was it, like a backstory or
I needed to make it real. So what I wanted to do, like, I mean, if I say, Jack the Ripper, 99% of the people know something. They might not
yeah.
know everything, but they know something. So, I was looking at, like, if I say the word Titanic, people go, "Oh yeah, it's a big boat that sunk." Okay, that's good enough.
Mhm.
It's a historic event that someone
Right.
knows. If I say WW2, people know about World War II. They know about World War One. They don't know all the details, when it started, where it took place. They don't need to know that. But what they need to know is it's a real event that happened, right? So when I tie my fiction into it, I wave it so tight that it feels like, holy cow, maybe this was real. Because at one point in the first book, I mean, when I was researching, I mean, I didn't even know this. I said, okay, I'm going to focus on Jack the Ripper. I really like this. Okay, I'm going to see where this takes me before I even start writing. When there was 2 attacks prior to the 5 that we know of, the famous
Mhm.
5. There was 2 before
Mhm.
that really never made the headlines because prostitutes getting bumped off in Whitechapel happened all the time.
Right.
So nobody really, just another one gone, right? Doesn't matter. Anyway, at some point, the one gal survived for quite a bit of time afterwards, and she gave the police quite the description. Anyway, the CNN at the time, like basically the communication paper at the time,
Mhm.
started running it as the Whitechapel Vampire or the Vampire of Whitechapel. I never even knew that.
Oh, wow.
And the reason I didn't know that is because the chief of police at the time, the Metro Police, not Scotland Yard, had gone to the chief editor of that paper and said, "Right, knock that off right now. We have enough problems dealing with, a killer that's on the loose without giving them this
Yeah.
supernatural can't be caught kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? We don't want that either, right?" So they pulled it. So that only hit the papers a couple of times before it was yanked. They didn't use the
Well, that's a
Whitechapel
bit of
Vampire anymore.
information that we
That worked
never
for
heard.
me. Worked for
Yeah.
me.
Wow.
And in the first murder, what sunk it for me as I was going to write it over top of Jack the Ripper was in the first murder. It was Polly Nichols up on Bucks Row. They found her with her throat cut right across and then down. So silly Wayne. No, I don't know about that. He was cut. She was cut like this, and then down like this, and again across. Right. There's some pretty deep gashes. Right.
Yeah.
And what was interesting for me was, again, I'm reading over all of the coroner's notes and thoughts and reports on the murder. So when he arrives at the scene, it's dark. They got gas lights. It's dark. It's foggy. It's just a horrible environment.
Yeah.
And he looks at the body, takes in the whole scene, and there's a brick wall here, and she's laying in an alleyway, and then there's a wooden fence and a railroad. Okay, so that's what you're faced with, tight space. So he comes back out and he says to the leading sergeant at the time, he said, okay, so did any of your boys move the body? And they said, no, sir, this is exactly where she was found. And this is what sunk it for me to be my backdrop. Was he goes, well then, sir, I put it to you this way. Where did the blood go?
Oh, gosh.
And they looked, and he said, I've only found enough on the sidewalk to fill a wine glass to about half full. With a gash across your artery like that, it would have gone right up the fence.
And that's real?
That's real. That's 100% real.
Did you have not just, but did they ever discover where the blood went?
Well, my thought is she was killed somewhere else and dumped.
And dumped there, yeah.
That's the logical story. But for me, when I've got 3 different people saying, where did the blood go? I know where it went. They drank it. Right? So that was the close for me. So that was okay. So now I'm going to write a story over top of the backdrop of Jack the Ripper. So then I spent somewhere in the vicinity of 9 months before I wrote anything, just reading everything I could on this killer. I was blown away. Like, I was blown away. First of all, how small that area was and how congested it was, and the lengths the police went through to catch this person and never did.
Didn't they surmise he was a member of royalty, British royalty?
Yeah, that was one of the theories, and the Queen at the time basically invited the law in and said, if you think it's one of my people, one of my staff, you just come in and interrogate everyone. Talk to everyone you can. I don't want them on staff if that's who you think it is. I don't want them part of my family if that's who you think it is. They thought it was one of the princes because he was always seen with prostitutes, right?
Yeah.
Then they thought it was the doctor for the Queen. And,
I heard that too,
both panned out. I mean, when they looked at the doctor.
The removal of the organs was very surgical, right?
Nope.
It wasn't?
Nope.
Why they think it was the doctor then?
Because it was a misquote. And the guy tried to pull it back, but it's a media frenzy, right? It's just like now. Do you want to hear about the guy that saved a dog from the lake, or do you want to hear about the guy that ran a bus through 20 people on the sidewalk, killed everybody?
Yeah.
They want the gore. And it hasn't changed. It didn't change back then.
No.
He was misquoted because science was up and coming. Photography was new, right? And this coroner was very much a science guy. Like, before then, it was always like, well, where are the witnesses? We need prime witnesses. Well, you got witnesses coming out the back door because everyone wants to be part of this amazing case. People would lie. Oh, I saw her. No, I didn't see her. Oh, she was alive. No, she wasn't alive. Everyone saw something, but it's all like this. It's just like one story discredits the other story, which discredits the other story. It was a nightmare. And what he said was, on the second murder happened in behind a little set of row housing, and there was only one laneway to get to it, and that was it. I mean, it's dark, it's tight, there's no lights, there's nothing, right? And that's another thing that fascinated me. How do you see? Yeah,
that's a great point.
It was just, and you look, I stood in that backyard in photography. I did a complete panoramic. I'm like, there's no light. How did this guy see this thing? And I'm going to get to that too, because it's a fascinating story.
Yeah.
But when the coroner went to the scene, when he's looking at this woman who's eviscerated, and he's looking and he said, okay, so give me what you got. And the guy said, well, the carpenter said, he saw her alive on the street, 2 streets over, at 7:30, let's say. I can't remember all the times. It was a long time ago. And the coroner's looking and he said, so she was alive 2 streets at 7:30. And when was she found? And he's like, 8:15. And he's just like, can't be. That's 45 minutes. Can't be. She has to walk from there to here, right? Whoever did the job had to do the job, right? And her body's already cold, right? Like, it's cold to the touch. He's like, I put my hand inside her organs. They're cold. It's been here a while, right? But and they were saying, no, like this guy's a credible witness and this person's a credible witness. And she was definitely alive at 7:30. And he's like, no, can't be. And what he said was, and here's the big misquote. He said, gentlemen, he said, looking at the damage done to this woman, if I was to do this kind of work in the conditions that I was given, meaning no light, right? You're having to feel around. It would take me, a professional, the better part of an hour to do what was done here. So everyone said, we must be looking for a doctor. He said it.
Oh, I see.
If he himself, as a doctor, would do this kind of work, it would take him an hour. They missed all that. We're looking for a doctor. Because if you look at the autopsy reports, and they're graphic, I don't recommend anybody looking at those still black and whites unless you want to, hurl. Because I mean, they just show the woman laid right out, and the autopsy's done
I've
from
seen
here
a
to here.
few.
Oh
Yeah.
man. But I
Yeah, they
mean,
missed.
I have no medical background, but I know if you need to get a kidney, you go from the back. And they took her kidney. Now, why would you cut open her abdomen, pull out all her intestines, put them up beside her head, right? Then remove her liver, remove her stomach, move everything out of the way to get a kidney out?
Why do you think that he did that?
It's just, he's not trained. I got to get in there. What's the easiest thing to get out? I mean, back then, if you had a kidney, you could make all kinds of stuff with a kidney.
Yeah, yeah.
Survive for weeks. And then, parts of that kidney were sent to the chief investigator and the CNN at the time, the newspaper of the time, basically saying that because she drank so much, it was already nicely pickled, and it went really well with my dinner. I sent you a bit in case you want to fry it up.
Oh, jeez.
Right. So yeah.
It's like Hannibal.
Oh, it's dark. It's
like
really
Hannibal.
dark.
Yeah.
It's dark. It's really dark. I mean, the Queen's doctor, he was training a new guy because he couldn't hold a scalpel anymore because he had arthritis. The prince had syphilis so bad that he couldn't move his hands, and his face was completely disfigured by that, and he was crackers. So they couldn't have done it. They couldn't have done it.
Who do you think did it? Do you have any plausible leads of your
No,
own?
no, I don't have a name. I have a theory based on my parents being British and knowing what British folks are like generally.
Love to hear it.
Yeah, it's. I guess I don't have a name. Like I said, all I have is a pile of research. That's all I've got to go on, and understanding it like I do. Yeah, I read the commissioner's report. Right, he's the main guy who was investigating these murders, and it came up dry. It came up with nothing, like absolutely nothing. Leads went nowhere. There was just empty leads. And in Jack the Ripper was 1888. There was 2 more murders after 1888, like end of 88 and early part of 89. They never made the papers. They were just like, don't even publish it. I don't even want to hear about it. Yeah, don't even go there. We don't want to. It's probably a copycat. Let's not lend credence to that. We don't want any more hysteria. Anyway, what he said was, this guy was the head of the police department in the biggest murder that had hit the papers in millions of years, probably at that point. We never heard of serial killers up till then. That was a new thing. And what he said was, in regards to Jack the Ripper, by 1890, we already knew who he was, right? Or no, we already knew who it was. It wasn't a he. We already knew who it was. But to bring that to light now would serve no purpose other than to discredit 2 police forces, and I'm not about to do that.
Wow.
That is the commissioner who was in charge of the murders at the time. So, knowing the Brits with the stiff upper lip, and Scotland Yard being at the top of its game, and Metro no slouch either. These guys were professional people that were being stymied at every turn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What would discredit 2 entire police forces to bring the light of this today? What would it be?
Somebody that works within
Possibly. Yeah, possibly. I mean, they already ran into that. They already had guys on the police force.
Maybe the commissioner himself.
Planting evidence. They were planting evidence and all kinds of stuff. My theory was it was a woman.
I was thinking you were going to say that.
And here's why.
Maybe one of the prostitutes slept with her husband or something, and she was vengeful.
No, what I think was, if you look at where Whitechapel is, it's this little hub, and then literally across the road is the high society. It's a road that divides misery from the well-to-do. It's crazy. And Doctors Hospital is right in the middle of the slum, so you'd have doctors going back and forth, through the slum. And they were known to frequent prostitutes, do that sort of thing. If you got syphilis and you brought it home and gave it to your wife, and then you
Oh,
died, your wife would have nothing back
yeah.
then. You don't, just because you're female doesn't mean anything. Like they would just come to your house and say, right, your man's dead. Out you go. You're on the street.
Yeah.
I think there'd be a bit of vengeance going on there. And I mean, people would go, yeah, that's a reach, but it's not. Okay, so
Yeah.
you think about this for a minute. You just lost everything. Everything. You're on the street now. You got nothing. Can't get a job. Who's gonna hire you? No one. Right? And you're sick and you're dying. And syphilis makes you go crackers after a little
Yeah.
while,
It
right?
makes you go nuts.
But
Yeah.
here's the part that clinched it for me to think it was a woman. When I read in the research that during that time, they were so desperate to try to catch this individual. They brought in like constables that were really slight build. They weren't these big strapping Scottish guys that bounce your face off a brick wall. They're not like that. They're little thin guys, right? They would, give tickets and send out bulletins
Yeah.
and things like that. They dressed these guys up as women, as prostitutes, and put them out on the street to try to catch this individual, and never caught him and never caught a whiff. Murder is still happening, but these guys never got approached. Why? You got to understand that during that time, these prostitutes, these women were so terrified to go to work, they would actually work in pairs. They'd be like, right, you come with me, and we'll,
Yeah.
if you
I
get a
heard
if
that.
you get a guy, right, we'll go behind a fence. They didn't go to rooms, people. They didn't have hotel rooms for these people. They just went behind a fence or a garbage bin down under the dock. They did the dirty. They got their few pennies for their dirty, and they went about their business. And then the idea was like, you stay on top, I'll go down, I'll deal with this guy. If you hear me start screaming, you run. You get one of the beat cops to come down and deal with this guy. And that was the plan. So my thought is, here is this woman who's the killer, sees a lone prostitute standing by herself against a fence, walks up to this woman and says, hey, would you like to work with me tonight? And the man goes, off with you. Go on. I'm a cop. Get lost.
Oh,
Right?
that's why the cops were never victims.
That's right.
That
They,
makes so much
they
sense.
gave
It
it
really
all
does.
away. They gave the whole thing away just by that, because no woman would work by themselves. And here comes this woman working by herself, looking to kill someone else. And in that second murder, like I said, it was pitch black. Pitch black. And this woman was completely eviscerated, like hands in the guts, putting the intestines up, everything else, right? This person left that laneway as the sun was coming up, not a care in the world that they are covered in blood. Who could do that? Who would be beyond reproach of having blood on their dress?
Yeah, a woman,
A
obviously.
woman. Because you
Yeah,
don't talk about that monthly cycle. We don't
exactly.
talk about that stuff. We don't talk about childbirth. There could be any reason why her hands are covered in blood. She's just a dirty girl, right? You don't talk about it. She walks away, not a care in the world. Not a care in the world. But if the police found out that Scotland Yard and Metro Police were held at bay by a female,
Yeah,
oh, let me tell
yeah.
you something. Now they're saying they've got DNA evidence that it was this butcher down the road or whatever who did it.
Oh, is that right?
Well, that just came to light, something like that. A butcher or a barber, I can't really remember. So why would that discredit you? Like, it's a dude with a knife. Like, what's the problem? But it can't come to air. Oh
No, it
God,
really makes a lot of sense that
no.
it was a woman.
It
Wow.
was. I lean pretty strong to that, and again, it's only the way I think, and it's just like,
Yeah. Did that
here's this
inspire your main character? What was her name again?
Mary.
Mary. Did
Yeah.
did that story inspire you to pick? No.
No, not really, because I was still researching as I was going along in the character
Oh,
development. I was still researching, and as I went along, I went, "Oh, look at this! This is gold." Because all I could picture was this woman carrying out these crimes, and then finishes up in like an insane asylum because she's crackers,
yeah.
right? And then one day she's just sitting on the floor, doing this kind of shit. I killed
Yeah.
all those women. I'm
Oh,
gonna be
right.
up there.
Yeah,
And
nobody would pay any attention to
but
that.
one doctor might have and said, you know what, the odds of this are like 10 million to 1, but we should call. Get somebody over here to interview her. And she probably spilled the beans on stuff that nobody would know. And they went, no, that's not her. She's crazy. But I'll bet you it was her. I'll bet you it was the wife of a doctor that lost everything.
That would make a fabulous book in and of itself,
Mhm.
like your theory.
Yes, you know, so
Have you
that was.
thought about, like, doing that? Like, writing a book just on your theory?
I haven't written in 7 years. I haven't got time. It's just crazy. I retired to write. I wrote 13,000 words of a companion book for book number 3, and it's almost done, but, like, I don't have time. I just every time I
Yeah,
sit down to do something, the water's
yeah,
leaking, the roof's blown off, the car's broken. It's just
yeah. Do
it's
you
all in my
still
head.
feel that emotional connection to the character like you did
Oh,
when
yeah.
you were young? So when you were young and you felt this connection, as you explained earlier,
Mhm.
did the gory aspect of this character disturb you in any way? Like, you must have really romanticized him in your youth because he did a lot of bad stuff.
Oh,
So,
he did, but it's like, for me, it was I looked at it as a survival thing. Like, in my stories, Aramis, he's living off chickens. He's whatever he can find. Like, he'll kill a chicken, but he's smart, and he starts recording. Like, how long can I go? How long can I go without having to kill something? And he's got all these days, and if I kill a chicken, it's this long. If I kill a cat, it's this long. Blah 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 blah, and it goes along. And he's working it all out in his head, right? For me as a youth, I mean, like I said earlier, it's like I kind of pushed, the murderous person aside, and I looked at this very lonely, person who is just the way he is, and every time he shows up, the town wants to kill him, right? That's how I felt when I was in school. So,
oh, jeez.
this is for me, this very power. If you poke this guy enough, he'll kill you, and that's what I basically kind of went. I wish I was like that when I was like 10 years old. I wish I was like that. Some bully poked me and I could just tear his head off and use it as a soccer ball, and that's what I got pushed to. So, when I created the character, I used a lot of things I went through. Like, many people who have wrote me letters, and they're also sweet. They say, like, I can totally feel this. I can feel that pain. I can feel that loneliness. One gal wrote me and she said, I had to actually look at the back of the book to realize you were a guy. You write it from such a female perspective, and that was very
Wow.
touching for me. Like, I felt really good about
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That I could
absolutely.
actually reach people that deeply. I mean, I had one guy write me. He goes, "Mr. Mallows, this is more than a vampire story, isn't it?" Oh, yes, that's very much more than a vampire story when you start digging into the whole book. When you get right through the end of Unnatural Selections, right through to Dark Origins, your mind will go like that, right? So, because there's a lot in there. If you read it as a story, it's very entertaining. If you get between the lines, right, you go, wow, whoa, oh man, that's dark. Much more
Wow.
dark than people just doing you in. So,
Now, you said in book 3, it became a little I guess he had a romantic partner,
yeah,
Aramis.
yeah.
So what happened there?
Well, there's two things I want to talk about in book 3 a little bit. Is You mentioned Nosferatu, right? So Nosferatu was inspired by a guy that was in World War One who was on a march on the German side, and it became dark, and they had to stop. So they stopped in this farmer's area, and the commanding officer basically said, my men need a place to rest. Can we rest in your barn? And the guy said, sure. So he says, okay. They all go in. He goes, now when you're in there, you close the door, and you put the big wooden bar across the doors. Make sure nothing gets in, right? And he laughed. He's just like, well, I'm not worried about people getting in. The guys are those things in the woods you should worry about. He goes, we have guns. I'm not worried about it. And the guy said, he looked at him and he said, guns will not stop this thing.
Mm.
And that night, this thing pounded on the doors and clawed at the doors, and they shot through the boards, and it just kept coming and coming and coming. And that's where the story from Nosferatu came from. That his brother wrote the story of that creature, which was artistic license, but that's
Yeah.
where it came from. In my book, it unfolds over World War One, and I took the Nosferatu part of it out of there and made it my guy, but not as ugly as that. But basically, what happens is my guy dives into a trench on the other side because he'd been shot so many times, and he just starts throwing the bodies out dead, right?
Oh,
And
goodness.
He passes out and he wakes up in a hospital, doesn't remember anything, right? And his commanding officer goes, okay, I want to talk to you for a minute while you're in the hospital. Sends the nurse out. And he says, what happened over there? He goes, I don't remember. And the guy's just like, yeah, well, people have shell shock. Doesn't surprise me. You don't remember. He said, I watched you fall. He says, I watched the blood come right out of your back. He goes, I thought that was it for you, for sure.
Mm.
And he goes, which was too bad. You were holding your own pretty well, so I figured that was it. He goes, can you imagine my surprise when all of a sudden I see all the other troops moving this other direction now to where you were. And I look, and the last thing I see is you running with no weapon and dive over the barbed wire into the trench. And the next thing I see is the Germans being thrown out left, right, and center. He goes, you don't remember anything? And he says, no, I don't remember anything. And he said, that's really strange. He said, they all started leaving. They started running towards us. Of course, we thought they were making a counterattack, so we started shooting them down. Because it wasn't real. We didn't realize that they were all unarmed at that point in time, and they were running away for what was ever in that trench. He goes, you didn't see anything unusual? And he said, no, I didn't see anything. Nothing. Zero. He goes, because we got this one kid, young guy, maybe 15. He was terrified. And he was babbling on in German. We had to get a translator. That took a bit of doing. But he goes, he was saying like, why did you send this red-eyed demon? Why did you send this red-eyed demon to kill us? Like, why did you do that to us? We didn't know what he was talking about. He goes, did you see a red-eyed demon over there? Goes, sir, I didn't see anything. I don't even remember being in the trench. Right. And he said, the funny thing was, we were talking to him and he's explaining all this. And he said it was just one person, one red-eyed demon in a British uniform. So, and this guy's okay, whatever, you don't remember, that's fine. So and he leaves, right? And he says as he's leaving, the guy says, hey, well, did you get the kid's name? And he stops, he looks back and he goes, why would you care about the kid's name? Because when he said he was 15, it's so young to be in a situation like that. So he told him the name, and the name I used was the officer or the guy who wrote Nosferatu.
Jeez.
So that's my sort of like
Connection to it. Yeah.
plug that into there. So that's what I did with that. But what happens in book 3, the reason it's written the way it is his family is now pretty much dead. It opens up with Temperance's diary saying this is probably the last entry that I'm going to do because I'm tired and I'm old. So my family's gone, there's nobody left. So he now knows that he has nobody now. There's nobody left that from his whole family is gone. So he is walking down the street quite, blue, and reads this thing about join the army. So he goes to see a priest and he says, I have a bit of a confliction here about this. If I join the army and I kill people, doesn't that fly in the face of thou shalt not kill? And the priest said, well, you're doing it for God and you're doing it for king and country, that you are absolved of that. If you're killing people like that, you're not just a murderer. So he goes, so if I go over there and I kill people, and can I still get to heaven? And he goes, in fact, if you die in the line of duty, you're absolved of all your sins. And you get to go to heaven, right? So he's like, I'm in. So he joins with the full intention of doing his best, but if he catches a bullet, hey, I'm in. So that was the idea. So he's not going to commit suicide because that's a big no-no. And he figured, I'll do my best, and if I die, then so be it.
So he didn't know he couldn't die?
Nope. No, not at that point. Not at that point at all. So anyway, so he goes over there, and what I described happens in the trenches, and he ends up in hospital. What he doesn't realize is the nurse that's attending him, right? I got to make sure I got that right. Yeah, the nurse that's attending him sees something that she should never have seen, right? And that's him coming back to life, right, on the table. And it was wild because she walks out there, and she's in this little cemetery churchyard, which has been a makeshift hospital, which they all were. And so she's out there, and it's one of my favorite scenes. It gives me such shivers when I talk about it. She's just all covered in blood, and it's a cemetery, and it's in the middle of war. And she unrolls a little piece of chocolate out of a paper bag, and then she pops it in her mouth, and she looks up, and there's a songbird singing. And she thinks to herself, she's like, even in this horror, there's beauty. Like, I have a sweet chocolate, I have this bird, I have air, it's peaceful here. And then this raven comes in and lands on the tree branch, and the sweet song is gone. You get this, and the bird flies away, and she's just like, oh, and it's gone.
Yeah.
Anyway, the bird hops along and she's like, "What's up with you? You know, why do you disturb everything? You know?" And it flies over, it lands on the wall, and it hops down onto a pile of bodies. You know, all the ones that didn't make it, and it starts picking at the body, right? And she's like, "All right, that's enough of that." And she, runs over there and she's like, "Not today. You're not taking a bauble from this one. You go find something else to do." And it flies up in the tree and it looks down and it glares at her. It's like, and she's like, "Whatever, be on your way. I'm not interested. Be on your way." And it just stops and looks at her. No noise, not just stares at her. And it's just cold comes over. She's just like, it was unearthly. Like I just felt completely unearthly. And then it flies away. And she has a little shiver and she goes to walk away and her skirt stuck. Like this is, they didn't wear pants. They wear skirts into the medical, right? And her skirt pulls tight, right? And she just thinks to herself, she's like, "What now? Like, what am I caught on now? Does it get any better?" And she looks down and there's a hand that's got her skirt, right? Bloody hands got her skirt. And she looks down at it for a minute. And she's just like, It doesn't register at all, right? It's like, how can this dead hand have my skirt? And she pulls at it a couple times and it won't come out. And she tries to move and she can't. Well, she's just like, it just gives the big yodel. Yeah. And one of the orderlies hears her screaming, comes running out and basically grabs the wrist, pulls it off her skirt, pushes her away. And he goes, "Are you all right?" And she's like, just a scare. And she's like, "You got to get him out. This guy's at the bottom of this pile." He's like, "He's dead. Like he can't possibly be alive." She goes, "Please just get him out. Because I didn't wrap his hand around my skirt." Like, come on, get him out. So he pulls this guy out, drags him out, right? He's just torn up, right? Bad. And so he says, like, he picks him up and he puts it's like, "I don't hear anything. He's dead." Then he goes, takes it, and he's just like, "Great God." And he runs with this guy down through the cemetery back to the hospital. And she witnesses this guy who is for all intent and dead. And she's arguing with the French doctor. And he's like, "No, I touched his brain. Okay. His skull is missing." And she says, "No, it's there. It's just, look, it's a fragment of somebody else's skull. It's a mistake. We all make them." Anyway, that's how she meets this. That's how she meets Aramis. And she's there for largely the same reason as he was there, like just to kind of like end it, but then realizes maybe there's more to life. How did this guy come back? I want to know. And he won't talk about it. And he doesn't want a friend. And she definitely doesn't want a boyfriend kind of thing, right? But she's just fascinated by what she saw. And that's how this uneasy sort of relationship starts.
Does he end up turning her?
It's a fun story, that is, because he falls for her and she falls for him.
Yeah.
And she's like, "I want to learn about you." And he goes, "It's dangerous." She goes, "Well, I don't want to die. I just want to learn about you because this is why I'm here. This is what happened to me. Right. And you can maybe help me with this and I can help you. Right. We can try to work this out together." Anyway, she ends up contracting tuberculosis. So for the first time in his entire creation, he's happy. And now this person is going to die. And he's at a crossroads. Because he's realized that he has painted himself into such a corner because he's told her beyond times to count how horrible his existence is and how he would never want this for anyone. But the only way to save her is to turn her.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even know if he can do it.
So right? He's never done that before.
Nope. No, he doesn't know how.
But he innately knew, but he, like, something in him knew that he could do that to her.
Yeah, but he said to her, he goes, "I don't even know if it will work." And she said, "I don't want to be you."
Yeah.
Why would I want to be you? Like, it's like you have such a horrible existence. Why? Anyway, he leaves this house where the nurse comes in to take care of her. And he storms out in the rain and it's just throwing it down. There's lightning and he's storming up the street and he is just fuming. Like he is just screaming at God at the top of his lungs, with profanity galore, and he's just like, "How dare you? You threw this upon me. I never asked for this. I was a good person. I've prayed to you and you've never answered my prayers." This is me talking now because that's how I felt as a kid. Like,
Yeah.
you have never answered my prayers. You've never been there for me. And now this one good thing, you're going to take the one good thing from my life? Is that what you're going to do? Is I will kill every one of your flock until the streets run red. If you take her from me, I will destroy your entire flock. How does that sound? And at this point, this priest comes out of a church and he's just freaking out at Aramis, saying, like, how dare you? How dare you blasphemous like this all in front of my church? How you go back, you leave. And then Aramis storms up the stairs, grabs him, pulls him right up off the ground and slams him against the church wall. And he goes, yeah, that's what you're going to do. You're going to do that to me? And it's a real emotional outpouring, and he said, how about I kill you right here? I'll kill you right here and see if God intervenes. I'll bet God won't step in for you because he doesn't care about you. How about that? And then I'll leave you dead here. And who will look after your wife and children? No one. What will your faith do at that point? Nothing. Nothing. Will you be remembered? You won't be remembered. Your kids and wife will be out on the street. They'll have nothing. They'll die in poverty. How about that? What will your God do for them? Nothing. If you die here, maybe you could have an ounce of compassion instead of like a bucket load of piss and vinegar, basically, and he drops him on the ground. He goes, say that in your next sermon. And he storms off into the rain. This guy's just like, oh my God, just shaking, right? And that's, and they come to terms that she goes, I don't want to die. She's right on the verge of dying. So I don't want to die. He goes, then I'll try to save you, but I don't know if I can. And that's the romance.
So, and he just knew innately to bite her. I mean, did he rip her neck apart and do all that gory stuff, or?
No, he was really gentle. Like, he was very gentle. Like, he said, it's going to hurt and I don't know what I'm doing, but I got to try. And he starts and he's drinking from her and he's crying, and she kind of goes limp and he's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. What do I do? What do I do? And he can't remember. And he's trying to, and he gets like flashes through somebody else's eyes. And that's why I call my vampires, they have living history, because they live through the blood of their maker, and the maker's blood. The older my vampires get, the further back in time they can see. And you just get just little visions. And so he's trying to figure out what to do, right? So he's like, he cuts his hands open and he puts the blood, he lets it run into her mouth, and he's working her neck to get her to swallow it, kind of thing. And then she just goes, and then she's gone. She's gone. And then, he's just like, okay, maybe she's not dead. And she's trying and trying and trying. And then the book shifts into like what she's going through in this near-death experience. Right.
Wow, that should be a movie, I swear to you. You need to
I had $1 for every person who said that.
I know.
I'd be a rich guy.
Yeah. What do you think the main differences and similarities are between Aramis and, a character that Gary Oldman played when he played Dracula? Because I thought he did a great job.
He did do a fantastic job.
Yeah, he did a great job.
I think like it's done in the same time period. There's that. So they dress the same, the streetscape's the same, but I think the Gary Oldman character, at least what I saw, he didn't have that sort of really deep emotional connection. Like, he wasn't like my guy, Aramis, spends a great deal of time trying to figure out what am I? What's happened to me? Like, I have this affliction. Like, he keeps thinking of it as affliction that can be cured. And he goes to doctors, and he even goes to a priest and says, okay, what's going on? What's happening to me? And he's got all these notes and things that he keeps, and, things that are happening and how he feels. You don't see any of that in the Gary Oldman character, right? Like, he's trying to undo what's happened, right? My guy is super kind as well. He's very gentle. Like, he's very protective. I mean, he encounters a butcher and his child in the market, right? When he's looking for food, right? And the little kid is David, and David's just there, playing jacks, right? You remember jacks? You drop the ball and scoop up the jacks,
yeah.
Right? So he's doing that. Anyway, he comes up to him and he says, excuse me, do you own this? Are you part of this establishment? Kid jumps up. He's like, oh, yes, sir. Yes, I am. What do you need? Right. And he goes, well, it's kind of specialized. He says, well, I'll start off with some sausage links. He goes, oh, best links you'll ever have in the market. They're the greatest. But I want a live chicken. And the kid's like, you want a live? Why do you want a live chicken for, sir? And he says, like, I live at a place and the chef is very particular. He wants to pluck the bird and he doesn't want a pre-killed bird. And I don't ask questions. I just do the shopping, and he's like, well, I can get you one next week. If you come by next week, I can get you one, and so that's how he meets the David character. And he stands up for the kid because the dad's really hard on him. And he just says, why do you want a live chicken for? And, you're not some one of those devil killing chicken, blood drinking things, are you? And he goes, I'm offended. I'm absolutely offended. I think I'll take my business elsewhere. How dare you talk to me like this? And he puts the guy right in place. And he goes, your son was much better at doing business than you. He goes, I should sell the son. He's worthless. And he goes, you should sell yourself. This kid is a good businessman. You should be mindful. And in fact, so mindful, I'm only going to deal with your son from now on. If you're here, I won't even give you a penny, not one. So he gets this relationship. He stacks up for the kid. And what's funny is in book 3 with the romance stuff, they go to open a bank account in England, in this little town. And the loan guy who's there, the bank manager who's there, who sets up the accounts rather, is David. Right. So David looks at this guy and goes, you look so familiar to me. And Aramis knows who this guy is, right? It's just like, well, I've never been in the bank before. Maybe we've met on the street. He goes, oh, I don't know. So I know you from somewhere. Even your voice sounds familiar. And at this time, the young lady goes, well, it's said we all have a twin somewhere, doesn't it? They all have a little chuckle about it and diffuses the whole thing. But it's just, I have this pathways are constantly crossing with people they know.
So he didn't age, or like
he ages, but it's really slowly, right? It's a lot slower than everything else. Like my opinion is, my guys, like the ones that are turned they're not immortal. The old ones, the makers, the original ones, yes, they're immortal.
Wow, so you really switch things up, because you did that too with the bite. It's such a sexual allegory.
Yeah,
that whole vampire bite on the neck thing, and you kind of removed that, right?
I removed some of it, not all of it. There's definitely, I mean, the young lady's name is Bethany. That's her name. She was a nurse in World War I, and it's a very tumultuous relationship, right? Because he does know more than she does when it comes down to that. But she is an educated woman in the time. You don't have that. She works in the medical field. That was new. So she doesn't like being told you can't do something. I know better than you. She doesn't like any of that, right? She's very kind. She's very gentle, but she can get her back up pretty quick if you start saying, yeah, you know what you should do? Bite your finger off. That's what she'll do. But at one point, she slips out after being this vampire. He takes her out everywhere. He brings her jars of blood to drink so she doesn't have to do the killing. And she goes, at one point, I'm going to have to deal with this. If you die tomorrow, what am I going to do? So at one night, he hears the door open and he's going out, right? He's like, okay, well, you're going out. I guess you're going out, type of thing. Anyway, so she gets herself into a whole world of hurt at that point. And he's there. He's just standing by at the outside kind of thing. And these two guys rough her up pretty bad before she turns into this monster that does them in, and he helps her dispose of the bodies and everything else. Anyway, they get back to their little apartment, and he's like, let me draw you a bath. She said, I don't want a bath. I don't want you taking care of me. Do you understand that? Can you just like back off? Right? She goes, I just want to go out for a while, because you're not going out like that. You can't go out like that. People are going to see you. Come on, you use your head. And she goes to walk past him, and he just sort of, just no, you're not of sound mind. You need to think. And she whacks him right across the side of the face. I mean, hard, like really hard. These are, she's like vampire full on now, right? So it's not like a little slap. And his lip just splits right open. And she's like, oh, she realizes like, oh my God, like I've just hit the guy I love, and his lip splits and the blood runs all the way down, and then the lip kind of just closes up again, right? But the blood's still there. She goes with her thumb and she runs it down like that, and she looks at it, and she just looks at him, and that the intense intimate moment starts there, because she feels like I really love him.
Yeah.
You know, like that. And she pulls her lip down his fangs there, and she kind of pushes her thumb up on the fang and breaks her skin, and it runs down her thumb, and then they get involved.
Yeah.
And they end up like making out in a big pile of blood on the floor, right?
Oh,
So
jeez.
it's
Yeah.
but it's intense. It's not gross in any way. It's the first time they've actually been in love intimately to that kind of power. Right.
Now, when they turned, because like in the Gary Oldman movie or movies like that, it would happen instantaneously. You know, the
No,
fangs would just pop out, and
no,
it would be a second, not like Superman where they had to rip off, clothing or something.
no.
But yours sounds different. Like,
Right.
how different was that, or is that?
I'm gonna let you in on a secret. How about that?
Good.
I'm gonna say something. All right. And anybody will know what I'm saying. Right. It's gonna be like this. And take this, all of you, and eat it, for it is my body.
Ah,
And take this, for this is my blood. And on the third day, he rose. That's my vampires. So on the third day, they come
wow.
back.
Wow, I see that. That's really good. But what about when they're in the midst of an attack?
Mhm.
How does that happen for them? Do they transform immediately?
Yeah, it's at will. When you're in control, you can will it. But if you're overstarved, the transitions start to happen. And Aramis learns this
Ah,
early on. He goes to his mirror in his little flat, little room that he's acquired, and he looks, and he wakes up with mouth pain. And he opens his mouth and looks, and he's got these fangs that are pushed out, and he's bit his lip, right? That's what's happened.
mm,
And so he's washing up and realizing, oh my God, I've got to do something. And he looks in the mirror, and the irises of his eyes, like he's got blue eyes, and all around the outside edge of the iris is red. It's starting to turn red. And he realizes, I'm in a lot of trouble now. Like this is starting to happen without my control now. And he doesn't realize he can actually control it, but he runs out and deals with the problem. Not the way he wanted to deal with the problem, but he dealt with it because he was starting to suffer hallucinations now, because he was
oh,
seeing
so
things
he
that
could
weren't there.
control that? He could control that turning?
As he got more familiar with the signs, and
Mm.
he learned to, like, it's like when you're over hungry, like, you walk into the house, you haven't eaten all day, it's like 10 cookies, a glass of milk, a bag of chips, and then you're starting to feel a little bit better. You're like, God, I just ate all this garbage. My God, I feel like ass. So, but that's the same with him, right? So if he lets it go too long, the danger is he will grab the first living thing he sees and kills it. But as he grows and learns, he can control it. And as long as he's like satiated, right, and not starving, if he encounters something, it's like he's got to go hunting. He's like, okay, tonight I got to go hunting because in 3 days I won't be able to control it. He can will it to come apart. Like he can make the fangs come. His vision turns. He's almost got like night vision. His hearing
Mm.
is so acute. He can hear a
Oh,
heartbeat 100 yards away. He knows where you are.
it sounds like he didn't have a teacher like most of the tropes are
No,
where, you get bitten like Anne Rice, is doing that currently in her
right?
series. So it sounds like Aramis didn't have that teacher,
No, and I
right?
wanted that
There was
because none of
nobody.
us have a teacher who, like, we're born into this world. Who teaches us? Our parents, who are mostly no better knowledge than what we are, so that we get, half-assed information passed down from generation to generation. Well, this
Mm,
is right and this is wrong, blah, that's the end of it, right? So I wanted to take that complete innocence, rip it away from the guy, hand him this horror.
wow.
And it's like, how many times on you hear me with Michelle talk about, like she says, we're the species with amnesia. It's so unfair.
It is unfair.
Like they dump us into this world, and they
Yeah.
say, well,
Sucks.
your spirit will understand. I've had that voice said to me when I'm, I'm getting dressed in the morning, and I'm just so upset. I'm just like, I need answers, and I want them now. and this voice, this beautiful, benign voice just says, you don't need to know. I'm like, I do need to know. I want to know. I'm asking you. So tell me. And you hear this, your spirit already knows. It's your physical that won't comprehend. Right? I mean,
That is so true.
it's such a bag of poo because I still got to live here. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Oh, don't worry about money. Okay, I'll tell the government that when they're asking for their taxes.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's so brutally unfair. So like I wanted this guy not to have a teacher. I want him thrown naked into the woods. Here you go, figure it out. See if you can make it. Because that's how it feels. And I know a lot of people that read this story go, man, I can identify with this guy. I can identify with this guy because I feel so lost half the time. That's what it's like. And you learn it. It's trial by fire. You learn pretty quick. Stove's hot. Don't touch it.
Gosh, that's so true, Wayne.
So that's the way it is. And he finds out something very valuable when he sees his face changing and everything changing. He's in a blind panic. So he runs out the door and he's like, I got to find something. So he runs to the market. David's not there. The guy's not there. Market's closing up for the day. He's racing around trying to figure it out, and he doesn't know what to do. So, he's walking through the streets and it's dark now. And he runs into a petty thief with a guy's got a knife. And he's like, right, empty your pockets. Let's go. And the guy's like, look, friend, it's your unlucky day because you've encountered the poorest guy in all of town. Like I've got nothing to give you. And if I did, I'd give it to you just to be rid of you, so let me on my way. And he goes, I'm not playing around, friend. Like, this is it, And he said, I have nothing to give you. Nothing, And the guy sticks him in the stomach with the blade. Right. And he looks down and he sees the blood coming out of his shirt onto the guy's hand. And it's white hot. It looks white in the night. It like lights up the whole area. And he grabs the guy's hand and he's holding it. The guy tries to pull his hand back and he won't let it go. It keeps the knife in him. Right. And he's looking at this thing. He looks up at the guy and he realizes, because the guy's now freaking out that this Aramis has changed. Right. And he just drags him into a laneway and just does him in. Just tears him apart, like just rips his neck out and makes a big mess of him. And then he looks down and he's like, oh, what am I going to do? Like he feels amazing at that moment because it's his first real human blood that he's had. But he feels like almost euphoric. You know what I mean? He's just like, he could fly. He feels so good, right? Then he looks down at this guy and without even thinking, he picks up the knife and he stabs his face and he stabs his neck and he just carves them all up and then throws the knife down and leaves. And he comes home and he's just like, wow, it's just like, what, the weight of the world is gone. I can sleep. I feel fantastic. And he goes to the sink and he looks, and he's covered in blood. And he's just like, the horror just like, boom, hits him. And he just slumps down. He curls up in the fetal position at the end of his bed and he just cries himself to sleep. And then the next morning he wakes up and goes, oh my God, like I've killed a person. Oh my God, I'm going to jail. I'm going to hang. And he gets up and he cleans himself all up and he dumps everything in the trash on the way out, and he walks deliberately to that area, which is out of his way for where he works. And he goes to that area and it's all cordoned off. The cops are all there and he's standing there and says to one of the guys, he goes, hey, what's happened? Quite innocently. And the guy's, some guy got carved up pretty good last night. And the bobbies are in looking at it. Right. So, and he listens, he realizes like, I can actually hear what the cops are saying. Like he can actually fine tune this now. It's not just this cacophony of noise coming at him. Right. So he's listening to these two constables at the end of the street going, yeah, well, he had it coming. They all do, eventually they meet someone bigger than them. And, he got his just deserves, that's it. One more thing we don't have to worry about. Won't have to investigate this one. And he realizes if he's selective on who he takes, they're never going to look for him. They'll never look for him. And that's how he starts down that road of being a very mindful predator.
This is before the romance?
Oh, way before. This is book 1.
Yeah.
Book 2 is modern day. It takes place in England, same place. College town, and young guy. Young guy's dad's a contractor, fixes houses, renovates houses. And this kid's a professional student, so he goes to school for a year, decides I don't want to do this anymore. I'll change my course and do this now. I don't want to do this anymore. Drops out, goes back. So he comes back into the school, into his dad's house, and he goes, "Oh, Dad, I don't like what I'm doing. I don't like chemistry. I've changed my mind. I'm gonna do this." Dad's hand goes down the floor. "That's it. I'm done. I'm done paying for you and your schooling and this and that and the other. You know what? You're gonna work. None of this nonsense is school. If you want to go to school, you're gonna pay for it. You're gonna work for me the whole summer." And he's like, "What? What do you mean?" He says, "Yeah, hard labor, mate. That's what's gonna happen. Let's go. Get in the truck." So anyway, he starts doing this summer job to pay for his school. And he goes, "Well, I don't even know how to hold a hammer. What do I do?" He goes, "You're going to go up in the loft and you're going to empty out all that mouse-filled insulation and you're going to throw it down through the hole. Then you're going to rake it up and put it in bags." That's what you're going to do. Hard labor. Anyway, while he's up in the attic, he finds this box, this little wooden box. And he's like, "Oh, it's treasure. Oh, I'm going to be rich, blah, blah, blah." He opens it up. It's a bunch of dusty letters, right? Just old, dusty, garbagey letters, newsprints and stuff. And it's Temperance's old diary letters from way back when. It's all the Jack the Ripper stuff and everything that's in there. So he starts pulling it out going, "Hey, these are Jack the Ripper letters, but these are ones that no one's ever seen." So he figures he's got the goose that laid the golden egg. He goes, I'm going to start auctioning this stuff off. I'm going to go on the equivalent of eBay back then. I'm going to just put it up and, highest bidder, see who wants it. But then what happens is he gets the attention of the wrong people. Wrong people see this. And this letter comes in on his email and it says, "That's not yours and you have no right to sell it." That's all it says. And that opens an entire Pandora's box.
Oh, I'll bet.
But during these investigations, the murders start all over again in Whitechapel, but this time they're just random people. They're not prostitutes. They're really
How many
random.
vamps are there at any given point? Like this woman originally, what was her name again? Mary.
Yeah.
She bit Aramis, right?
Yep.
So do you tell, was there a community of vamps?
No, there's not. No, there's not. I got away from that. Yeah. I got away from that because let's face it, let's just use reality for a minute. All right. If you were living in an apocalyptic world and you knew where all the food was, would you tell everybody? No.
No, of course not.
No, you wouldn't. Right.
Yeah.
So if you have a single vampire that needs to consume blood, for argument's sake, every 8 or 9 days, right? If you live in a village that has, argument, 300 people, how long would it take before they figure something's wrong?
Gosh,
so if you had 100 vampires all partying it out at the barn down the street, the village would be decimated within an hour. So I broke away from the whole coven idea. I wanted my vampires to be singular, solitary, maybe a pair, right? They can't sort of cohabitate with one another really easily. They try to, Aramis and Bethany try to live off each other's blood, but they can't because it's toxic to them. They can't eat another vampire's blood because that would be the problem solved. We just eat each other's blood and then nobody hurts, right? That's the way it is. So, but no, I got away from the whole coven idea.
How far into the present day did you get with your last book? What's the time frame?
Well, the modern book is book 2, and it has to be that way because otherwise the lineage, it doesn't read as nice. Like in book 2, it is modern day, so you have the modern day cops with DNA and forensics and everything. It doesn't matter who you are that dies, they're going to do a complete blood work, up work, everything, right? And
sure.
So the first, if you look at my second book, it's called Mary, Mary, Quite Contrary, right? Which is self-explanatory when you get through the book. But on the book cover, there's a glass of wine, or a wine glass with blood to the halfway mark, right? And what is that indicative of? That's the coroner saying, "I only found a wine glass half full of blood at the scene." So where the first murder takes place in the new book, it happens where Polly Nichols was killed. and the murderer leaves a wine glass with blood in it for the cops to find,
Mm.
if they can make the connection. What's the significance of the wine? What the wine glass? This kid's been ripped apart, and there's a glass of blood there to the halfway mark.
Wow.
So the cops have to start really, really digging to like, what is the purpose of that? And the DNA, they get DNA done on the blood, and the what do they call it? The inspector comes in and his buddy's there, and he says, "Hey, how are you this morning?" "I'm miserable." He goes, "Your report's on the desk, and the commissioner's pissed." Right? So guy sits down, he opens up the thing, and he's like, "Oh yeah, well, come off it, right? What do you mean? This is obviously it's a mistake, right?" He goes, "Yeah, that's why we had them run it 3 times." So and he looks at it. So he says, "All right." So he goes downstairs, and he walks into the coroner's office, and he goes, "Right, what's with this?" And she goes, "You read it like I did." He goes, "Species unknown."
Mm.
Like, where am I supposed to go with that? Species unknown. Like, do we not know every species on the planet? And she laughs at me. She goes, "No." She goes, "Don't be like that. There's stuff that washes up on the beaches all the time, right? That we have no idea where it came from, what it is. We don't even know what to call it, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We're finding stuff all the time that we have no database on." And he goes, "Oh, that makes things easier, don't we?" So what you're saying is some creature washed up on the beach of the Thames, walked up the street, went to an antique market, picked up a bayonet, wandered up to Bucks Row, and killed our friend Nate here. Oh, that's narrowed it down so easy. God, I should have come down to talk to you earlier. That's where he's at with it, right? Like, it's just, like, because species unknown means like it could be, what the hell is it, right?
Sure.
We don't know
Yeah.
what it is. Why is an unknown species of blood mixed in with Nathan's blood in the wine glass? And they go down this really deep rabbit hole trying to
Oh,
figure it
yeah.
out. So
Now you
that
said that they age, right? Your
slowly,
vamps slowly.
yeah,
Do they? Because we know them as the undead
right.
vampire. So they sleep in a coffin and all the usual.
Nope.
Yours don't.
My vampires, they eat regular food just like me and you.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, they are. I wanted these people to be your next door neighbor. Like, just they have a job, they drive a car, they have vices, they just, they have a religious belief, whatever it could be, right? I wanted it to be so normal, it squeaks, right? That's the only problem they have, is they need a blood supply fairly regularly.
I mean, was it a bacteria that caused it, the vampirism? Like, did you go there
I did
in
go
your
there.
series?
I did go there because in the modern day, when the main inspector, he says he gets in, one of the guys gets killed, right? The one inspector who is not a Ripper fan, but his partner is, right? So, you know, the older guy is on the heels of, tracking out the track, right? Walking the track, trying to figure out, okay, what do they see? What do they feel? How are they doing? Anyway, he goes to Mitre Square where one of these murders took place, right?
Mhm.
And this young woman comes wandering along, and she's just, she's got a hoodie on, and her earbuds are in, and she's just bopping along, and she pulls the one earbud out, and she's like, "Hey, how are you?" And he's like, "I'm well. How are you?" She's like, "Good, good. Don't see you here. You new?" He's like, "No, I just came down to try to figure out a problem." She goes, "Oh, I'm good with puzzles. Can I help you?" He goes, "I don't think you can help me." And she's like, "Oh, I'm really good. What are you looking for?" He's like, "Oh, I'm an inspector with the police department. I'm trying to catch a killer." And she's like, "Oh, I could help you with that. I'm good with that. What are the clues?" And so they start having this conversation, like back and forth, back and forth. And he says, "Well, I'm looking for my guys to be this, 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 and this." And she looks at him and she goes, "A guy, eh? You're looking for a guy? Hmm. Well, I know one thing for sure." And she goes, "Oh yeah? What's that?" And she whips a dagger out and she goes, "You don't know Jack." And
Oh,
cuts his
geez.
throat right
That's
across like
great.
that and drops to the floor. "You don't know Jack."
Wow, that's
Right?
great.
Because that's who you're looking for, and you don't know him. But what's cool is that she wipes the blood off, and she licks the blade, and she's just about to do something, and she just stops, like she's just bolt upright, and she's just like, "Oh Mike, you are not truthful at all, are you? He's dead. And she goes, does your partner know you're dying of cancer?
Oh, jeez.
She's like, oh, you shouldn't keep secrets like that. That's very naughty. Like, and it's just, this is the Mary character's back, right? She's the one and she's venomous because again, they're looking for a guy, right?
So did she get the bacteria? She was a vamp already when this happened?
Well, she got turned as well, right? And you'll find that out as we go along, right? But
Right.
in the second book, when they're doing all the analysis, like the surviving inspector gets a new inspector to help him. His name is Greg, young guy. And he tells the guy, he goes, I'm going outside the box today, so you might as well stay in the office because what I'm going to do might cost me my job. And the young guy's like, oh, well, what the hell? In for a penny, in for a pound, let's go. So they head off to the University of Forensic Science, right? And he walks in, he gives the blood type to the woman, and she's like, what case is it? He goes, can't say. She goes, oh, so it's an active case. She goes, I can't say. Because you want to play with me, these are the rules. If you don't want to play with me, give it back, and away we go, right? So anyway, they come out and they stop the car.
Patsy.
Thank you. They stop the car, and he goes, why are you stopping? He goes, because I can't help thinking that 140 years ago, there was two cops just like me and you sitting in a carriage on this same street discussing the same murders, and they went down the road of professionalism, and that person got away. And he goes, I'll be damned if that's going to happen this time. No, not going to happen. Anyway, when they go back to the forensic lab, he goes, what'd you find out? She goes, it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. You can't tell me anything about this. He goes, no. She goes, okay, I'm going to show you. And what's cool about this is I actually talked to a woman who is splices DNA on a molecular level. And I said, I need to know how it works in layman's terms. Like, I'm not looking for an education here. I just want to,
Right.
I want to know what microscopes you use. I want to know this. I want to know that. And she said, everything you wrote is amazing. You got the wrong microscopes. You got the wrong blood type. You got this. So I corrected all that. She goes, this will appease like the 99 percenters. And although you terrify me, she said, I will never believe it because I work with this stuff every day. But what I did was, she goes, I want to show you something. So she puts the blood type, the two Petri dishes under the microscope. And she goes, on the left is a normal human blood cell. Okay. And she goes, on the right is what you gave us. And she goes, what do you see? And he goes, I don't see any difference. She goes, look real close, really close. And she brings up the magnification. He goes, okay, I see like there's a little black anomaly on ours. She goes, right, that's the difference between the two. It's the only difference between the two. But she goes, I want to show you something. So she takes them away and she puts a bunch of them together in the same Petri dish. She goes, okay, so now you can identify the difference between what you brought me and a standard human specimen. He goes, yeah, I can see it. She goes, what I'm going to do is, this is an electric shock, right? So I'm going to put it in the Petri dish and I'm going to kill off our human blood cell. Okay. She goes, okay. She goes, right now you see the two are interacting. They don't really care about one another, right? They're just there, right? So she zaps the human blood cell and she goes, now you notice that it's dying. It's getting slower. It's not moving properly. It's been electrocuted. Effectively, the cell is dying. She goes, now watch what happens. She goes, as the blood cell slows down and it's not moving, it's caught the interest of the other cell. And the other cell moves over to it and rubs up against it. And all of a sudden, boop, the human blood cell now has that black dot. And it regains its energy again, and it starts moving with the other one. She goes, until it was dying, that other blood cell didn't care about it. But once it was dying, it took it over. And that's how the virus worked.
That was like the infected blood. So if they didn't die, then your characters, or they just died, what was their lifespan like?
Yeah, your physicality dies because all the blood cells are slowly converted to this other blood cell. You still have a human physique, right? Everything about you is the same, except you're not human anymore. You're something else. So that's book 2 it won an award a few years back for Reader's Popular Choice. It blew me away. It came in the mail. I was just like, what? I didn't even know it was out there.
Wow,
That's
that's
crazy.
nice.
So I was hugely flattered by that. And finally, like in book 4 goes back to the origins, dark origins, where it all began. And it's Michelle's favorite book. I dedicated the book to her.
Oh,
The
nice.
research was for her, it was easy. For me, it was hard because I'm looking for villages and places in Europe that don't exist anymore. They try to find a name of a village that was around in
Oh, yeah.
1300. Good luck. Nothing. Try to find, what did you call your son in 1300? You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
so that's that. Sorry, I just dropped something. Michelle,
How did we have a few minutes left.
yeah.
After you got done writing and everything was finished and published, how did that affect you? Like, did the story stay with you? Was it something you thought about all the time? Did this character become like almost real to you? These
Oh, so
people
real.
you invent? Yeah, I would think.
So unbelievably real, Carolyn. So unbelievably real. I would see things, like there's this book I want to write, which is the continuation of it. And it's wild because I see it in 3D. Like it's just,
Mhm.
I see things happen and unfold. I mean, it's a picture a room that's bathed in moonlight, and there's a bed and a night table and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
there's 2 people sleeping in it. And literally in the moonlight, they sit up really slowly together, and the sheet kind of just slides off them. And they look at each other, right? That and the woman in the bed goes, and he just
Mhm.
nods that there's somebody in the house, right? They heard it. They heard
Oh,
an
that gave me
intruder,
chills.
right? It does me too, but I
Yeah.
see it happen. They're
Yeah.
so aware and so in tune, right? It's wild how deep that is.
Yeah.
When I wrote book 2, the Mary character, I have her in the equivalent of what a 7-Eleven is here. You know what I mean? Little mini mart kind of thing. And she's reading like a tabloid magazine about this latest murder. And she walks out of it and she just drops it into the recycle bin. And I'm basically across the road looking at this. And she honestly, in my mind's eye, she looks across the road, we lock eyes, and she goes, like, now what? And I'm like, right, okay, I got you. Let's do this. And we'll go down to here. We'll have this happen. And she's like, I don't like it.
Oh my
I'm like,
goodness.
why not? And she's like, we did that before. It's all been done before. Why don't we do it this way? Let's do it this way. I like this way better. I'm like, I'll follow your lead. Go, take me for a walk. And she's like, all right, stay close. And we walk. And I'm writing notes as I'm walking through my mind. I sound like a crazy person, but it is unfolding. I'm like, oh, it's beautiful. This is beautiful. Where
How
did
do
this
you
come
know
from?
that's not something
I don't.
paranormal?
I
How do
don't.
you, it
I
could
don't.
be.
I don't. I mean, I've said before, I've said a million times. It's just like some of the stuff that I write is way above my pay grade. It really
Yeah.
is. Like, I mean, I read my stuff and I'm like, wow, I wrote that? That's crazy. My kids read my stuff. They're like, you wrote this? You wrote this? Yeah, that's crazy.
You didn't have a relative or anybody that you think,
No.
because I've talked to other authors, many of them that have said, I wrote this book and it was channeled from my mother or, my great grandfather. Like there was always some force behind it that they knew about that channeled this book, and nothing for you.
No, nothing. I mean, we came from, we were a French-Irish cross. That was our family bloodline. You know, they changed our name to Mallows. It was Mallory before that.
Oh, wow.
And they changed it during the potato famine when they fled to England, right? And we were no longer Irish and French. We were Mallows. And there was an incident that occurred that nobody knew about, that only came to light on the passing of my great great grandmother. I can't remember her name. Beatrice.
Mm.
And a notary came to the door, lawyer, weeks and weeks after passing, and they're like, who are you, kind of thing, right? This little cottage kind of house. And he said, I'm here to settle the estate of Beatrice Mallows. And they laughed.
Mm.
They're like, the estate? Like, man, this is her house. We live in it. Like, there's no
Yeah.
estate, brother. There's nothing here. He goes, can I come in, talk about this, because I don't want to stand out in the rain. So they
Yeah.
came in, and she had like a cottage and horses and all kinds of stuff. And she was a cleaning lady. And they're just like, how?
Yeah.
How? We don't know how. No one. And yeah, she had all this property and stuff. It was wild. And it came to light way later. My dad's brother, my uncle, when he retired, he started doing a family tree. And he's going back and back and back. And all of a sudden, like, couldn't go back any further. Like, Mallows didn't exist anymore. Gone. Right. But then he realized, okay, well, it was Mallory before that. Okay, I get that. But he went to the church, and all the Mallows was stricken from the record. They were all blacked out. And he kind of had a chuckle with the priest. He goes, what did we do? Did we murder Christ? Like, what did we do? And he laughed. He goes, oh, he says, you just have to miss a Sunday in church back then, and you were excommunicated. It could have been anything. He goes, contact the archdiocese. Here's the number, talk to them. He goes, yeah, but we're not Catholic. He goes, oh, they have all the records. Trust me on that. They'll have everything. So he wrote them a letter. Really nice one. Do a family tree, blah, 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 blah. Can't find any records on this, and this on these dates. Any help would be appreciated. And then a few months later, gets a knock at the door. And equivalent of like, what do they call those guys? Like M5, the secret police. Look, the guys that look after Buckingham Palace came knocking on the door.
MI5,
Yeah. And he goes, can I help you? He goes, yeah, are you Peter Mallows? He goes, I am. He goes, can we come in for a minute? He's like, who are you? And up goes the badges, right? Like this. And he's just like, what have I done? He goes, we just want to talk to you. That's all. Just want to talk to you. Just love to sit down. He goes, I'll make you a tea. So they sat down, and they're like, what are you up to? And he's like, what do you mean? What am I up to? I'm retired. Like, what do you want from me? Right. And he goes, well, you've been digging up some old books and stuff. Like, what are you after? He's like, I'm doing a family tree. Yeah. He goes, it's come to our attention. Yeah, you are. Why? He goes, I want to know where my roots come from. That's why, what does it matter? So they open a briefcase, they go through everything, and they go, right, if that's what you're looking for, it's been dealt with. And he looks at it, he goes, what is this? What is this? He goes, well, your great-great-grandmother, blah, 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 had a bit of an indiscretion with one of the princes, and it was paid off. So you have no claim to the throne.
Geez.
There's no claim. You can't get in there. There's nothing. Do you understand that? He goes,
oh my gosh.
I wouldn't want to be in with you lot. That's crazy. Because I'm just trying to figure it out. But it was so bad. I mean, there was a street called Mallows Lane that got changed. Even my grandmother, my mom and dad went back to England, and they said, what do you want from England when it came back? And I said, I'd like you to take a picture of grandma's tombstone. And they're like, that's morbid. Why do you want that? I said, because the last time I was there, I was 5, and you guys had just planted a tree. And I wanted to just see how big the tree was. That's all. I'm not morbid. Not really. Anyway, so they went there, and they couldn't find the marker. So they went to the office, and they talked to the funeral people there, the cemetery office people, and they said, looking for this name. They get the books out. Nope, never been buried here. And they had said, well, she is buried here. Well, we got no record of it. Sorry. See ya. So my mom went to her sister, who kept all the records of everybody.
Yeah.
Both sides of the family. And she had the payment and the lot number and everything. So they all went back, and they said, well, what's this then? That's your cemetery. Yeah. Where's that lot number? And another woman comes out. Let me see it. They go back, pull out this book with the dust on it. Right. And they go through it, and they said, oh yeah. She's buried at, K15. Right. And I said, well, we were up that aisle, but there's nothing there. So they all go up there, and they look at the thing, and they're like, yeah, they said, sorry. They said, had quite a bit of vandalism in the cemetery. That headstone was taken down. And they're like
a BS story.
They're allowed, like, vandalism, is it? We're going to get the tombstone put back. Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Yeah. We'll put it back. Yeah. We'll get it done for you. No problem. I'm sure it was just stricken from the record. Everything. Everything
sounds
gone.
like.
Oh yeah. Everything.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
So what are you working on now? Like
the plumbing.
I know you're on what?
The plumbing.
Yeah. Well, I still think you need to make this series a movie. I
Well,
mean,
I've tried.
Anne
Honestly, I've
Rice
tried.
would do it.
Honestly, I went to see a spiritual healer. My sister told me to go and see one. They're very witchy woo woo girls. So it was wild because I went there and I met her, lovely lady, and she was enamored by my I have a gothic cross tattoo on my forearm, and she goes, "Can I touch that?" And
Oh,
I
wow.
said, "Sure." And she's like rubbing her hands on it. She goes, "God, it feels like a burn. It actually feels like a
Oh,
brand. It doesn't even feel like a tattoo." And the Templars used to get brands. So there you go. I don't know. So I don't know where it came from. I'm not even religious, so I don't know why I have it. I just I
mhm.
like the look of it. And my sister had this manuscript, which was the first book, and she was reading it
Yeah.
through. And I can't remember what her name is, Marley, I think. And she said, "Oh, what's that?" And she touched it. And she said, my sister goes, "Oh, that's Wayne's book he's working on." And she goes like this, and she's like, book, not a book, not a book, not a book, but movie. It's a movie, not a book, not a book.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
but I be a movie after I'm dead and gone, I'm sure. But I can't get anybody to even take I've tried. I've know friends that are directors. I know friends that are producers, and they all say, "Oh, one day, Wayne, you'll find the right person." Aren't you the right person? Like, it's gold.
Exactly. Well, my sister's in the movie business, so I'm gonna have to hook the two of you up.
Oh, I'd love it. I'd love it.
Yeah,
I'd love it. I
I
mean,
will do that.
if you go on the website, you can look at a trailer that we shot that's on there. We shot a movie trailer as a teaser for anybody looking to produce this as a flick. And
Yeah.
I love it. It turned out great. It was well worth the investment. It was a 3-day film
Oh, good.
shoot.
I'll show that. I'll show
Yeah.
that to my sister. That'll
Yeah,
be
it's
cool.
turned out great. Loved it.
Well, thank you so much. This was a blast.
Yeah, I love it
I
too. Thanks.
yeah, this was so I have to have you back again. This was
Anytime.
awesome.
I love it. Anytime. I'm available. I'll talk your
Thank
ears off.
you. I loved every minute of it. It was so informative, and I have to read your books. Like,
For
I
sure.
know Michelle told me there's a lot. There's a lot to read, but
There is.
I'll do it.
There's a lot to read. It's a lot. It'll pull you right in, then you'll read it all over again and go, "Oh, wow, I didn't know
I
that.
know.
Wow, I
I
missed that.
love
I missed
that.
that."
I love that.
So there you
All
go.
right, I better get going. I don't want Michelle getting yelling at me for going over 6 o'clock.
That's all right. She'll yell at me too. "Why did you shut up? Why did you keep
Right.
her going?"
Thank you again. It was such a
Pleasure.
pleasure. Thank
Pleasure's all
you.
mine. Thank you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care, dear.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Well, thank you so much, everyone. That was truly fascinating. And we have absolutely no time, but thank you to United Public Radio. I have to say that always and forever. And thank you, everyone in the chat. You guys rock. And I will see you tomorrow, 3 o'clock. Stay tuned on social media. I have a fantastic show tomorrow, The Ghost in the Machine. Thank you, guys. Love you all. Bye bye.